Welcome, and today we're going to be reading Story 4, The Test of Love, Part 2, page 65. As Eve stood there by the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, listening to the soft-spoken words of the serpent, the first doubt entered her mind. God had said that if she ate of this tree, she would die. Now the serpent said she wouldn't die. Who was right? Could it be that God had not told the truth? As she thought this over, the serpent followed with another evil thought. Said he, For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Thus he suggested that God had been unfair to her and Adam, that he was holding back something that belonged to them. There was a sly hint, too, that God was jealous of them, afraid that they might become as wise as himself. It was very wicked and mean of the serpent to say such things when God had been so good to Adam and Eve, but Satan is like that. He is always working against God, always suggesting unkind and hateful things, always trying to make trouble and separate friends. That suggestion of his about knowing good and evil aroused Eve's curiosity. Up to that moment, she had not known anything about evil. She may have even asked herself what Satan meant by the word. What was evil like? Then she thought it might be nice to find out. That is always dangerous. It is the first step along the path to trouble and sorrow. We need to be ever on guard against suggestions to try some wrong thing to learn how it feels or how it tastes. We should not seek to know evil. We are far better off without such knowledge. No one has to put his hand into a bucket of tar to know it's black. Little by little, Eve surrendered to Satan's tricks. First, she began to doubt God's word. Then it seemed as though it wouldn't matter much if she disobeyed him. Then she was ready to touch the forbidden fruit. Finally, the temptation was more than she could stand. She reached out her hand, took of the fruit, and ate it. The taste was delightful. She wondered why she had hesitated so long. Surely the serpent must be right after all. God couldn't possibly have meant to keep her from eating fruit as lovely as this. She gathered more and took it to Adam, explaining to him what happened, and he did eat. No doubt he said to her, But I thought God told us not to eat this fruit. And she probably said, Oh, it's quite all right. The serpent told me I wouldn't die, and you see, nothing has happened to me. Maybe God made a mistake. But God had not made a mistake. He had had a good reason for telling Adam and Eve not to eat of that tree. It was his way of finding out if they really loved him. He had given them so much, every good thing he could think of, and he yearned for their love in return. Did they really love him? Would they love him always? How could he be sure? There is one never-failing test of love, and that is obedience. If we truly love Father and Mother, we will gladly obey them. So it was that God told Adam and Eve not to eat of that tree. It was a simple test. If they have loved him sincerely with all their hearts, they wouldn't have touched it. Then God would have let them live forever. Seeing they disobeyed him and ate of that tree, he knew he could not trust them. So they would have to die and go back to the dust from which he had taken them. What a sad day that was. How much was at stake in that little test? If only they had known. Alas, they failed the test, both of them. And no sooner had they eaten of the fruit than they knew something was the matter. Something had gone wrong. For the first time in their lives, they felt worried. What would God think of them? They wondered. What would he say to them? Then came fear. As the day dragged wearily on and evening shadows lengthened, they talked in frightening whispers. Somehow all happiness had suddenly gone out of their lives. For the first time they felt sad, miserable, wretched. There was no joy for them in Eden any more. They wanted only to run away and hide. What a pity. But this isn't the result of disobedience today? It just spoils everything, doesn't it? Look to the next story for Story 5, The Price of Sin.